Hey everyone, my name is Sterling. I'm super excited to be here this week to talk about my experience as a Berklee student, as a Berklee graduate, someone who has gone through a 4-year program at Berklee College of Music in the Boston campus location. I'm going to be covering the audition process, the different ratings, performances, different clicks. Oh man, there's just so many different things to get into, so let's get started. To kick things off, let's talk about the audition process to get accepted into Berklee College of Music. I remember the morning like it was yesterday. I woke up feeling super eager, incredibly nervous, and also a part of me just could not wait for it to be over with. I got there about 45 minutes early, funny enough, and I had, built up a rapport with one of the student ambassadors that holds the front desk at these auditions. And lucky enough for me, it was being held at a Los Angeles location. I believe it's Sir Studios. I believe they still do it there. Man, they gave me a sheet of paper to go into a practice room and warm up before my audition. On this sheet of paper, I had to read music, and I had to bring myself to get comfortable with reading this music. Keep in mind, before attending Berklee, before this audition, I had no clue whatsoever how to read music. I had never really delved into it my entire life. I didn't even know what standard staff was. My entire musical experience was my vocal training, guitar technique, but it was all mostly by ear, by chord charts, nothing that had to do with intense theory. And I remember at that moment feeling like, oh my gosh, this might end up hurting me in the long run. Anyways, I get into the audition. I introduced myself to the judges, and I ended up singing a song accompanying myself with a guitar called Bright Lights by Gary Clark Jr. And I wouldn't normally do this type of piece, and I remember it being sort of a push and a pull when I was deciding what piece to sing. I chose something that showed off my range, showed off my tonality, showed off what I could do, but it was also a little away from the realm of music I would normally sing. Knowing that Berklee is a place where they want you to represent their school the best they can, and they want you to grow and experience many different types of genres, I thought it would be best to do a piece like this. Lucky enough, I did end up getting accepted, but to rewind things a little bit, after that part of the audition, it was followed by an interview. And I remember during this interview, I spoke to, I believe, a student ambassador and also a teacher from the faculty. And I just was really honest about why I wanted to do music for the rest of my life, why I was so passionate, why I wanted to go to Berklee, why I wanted to show them what I could do, bring to their school. And here's a really big tip. I actually went out for 7 different colleges, only one being one I was interested in, which was Berklee. But out of these 7 colleges, I got accepted into 6. And the biggest bit of information I can provide is during the interview process. You want to tell that college what you can bring to the table, how you're going to make their school so much better for you being in it. And once you kind of break that wall, because that's what they're looking for with these questions, they'll pretty much want you immediately. Now, funny enough, my SAT scores were pretty terrible, and they only got worse and worse as I took the test. But luckily enough, I didn't have to send those in for my Berklee application. My audition was enough along with my interview afterwards. When I got my envelope in the mail, I was so beyond excited to start this new journey in my life, and I honestly really believed I deserved it, along with not also being able to believe it. So when you first get to Berklee, you see some pretty astounding talent. Incredible artists everywhere you look, different genres everywhere you look, different cliques, different types of groups, a cappella groups, different ensembles, whether it's jazz, rock, country, soul, R&B, whatever you can imagine is happening around you. I remember they put me in my very first class with other students that it was going to be sort of a support class for the first semester. And it was led by a student who would essentially help us when we ever needed to reach out emotionally or just for a little bit of guidance. So I thought that was actually an amazing part of Berklee's program when you're a brand new student there. Especially since I didn't attend the 5-week program that many students do before attending Berklee. This was extremely helpful for me. So let's talk about the ratings audition. Now, with your instrument at Berklee, if you're a performance major, ensembles are a must. Now, the ratings audition is actually extremely not a big deal. Everyone says, oh my gosh, you gotta really make your mark, you gotta impress these judges because their ratings will decipher what type of ensemble that you can get put into, and all this and this and this and that. And honestly, it really doesn't matter. There are amazing musicians by the end of the time I was at Berklee that only took their ratings one time, and they didn't really care about making them better. They didn't really care about getting into other ensembles because for them it was about the music. They knew they had the talent, and they didn't really care about what a judge at that school's perception of them was. because honestly what mattered was how they got around the school and what they were doing and how good their music and voice or whatever instrument they were using stuck out for itself. Now for the ratings audition, man, that was interesting. I played an original song. I'm trying to remember, I don't even remember which song I played. The judges can't react, and it's a bit misleading because you kind of sit there going, you're putting your heart on the floor, you hope they love you, and you have no idea because they cannot demonstrate any sort of face to you. Even though it's all objective, my very first ensemble was actually one of my favorite ensembles at the time of that school, and it was actually my first opportunity, and honestly one of the only opportunities I got to work with such a massive ensemble. The ensembles after that throughout the years were honestly smaller and more intimate, but this I had sax players, I had upright bass, electric bass, I had a backup singer. It was me and this girl were the two singers of this ensemble, and it was this really cool mixed styles of jazz and European music and stuff I just hadn't really delved my feet into, so it was pretty damn amazing to get into that flow of things. Now I remember in my very first ensemble, I sang for my midterm performance No Good by Kaleo as one of the pieces, and it was so damn fun. I remember I had written a lead sheet, which I learned to do at that school, for everybody in the band, which it was my job to write a lead sheet, give it out to everybody, and make sure that they could all follow it, and that we could play a song in real time, even in rehearsal before, really perfecting the piece, and make it come to life and sound beautiful and sonically super pleasing. Now, I cannot say this enough, but you are going to have friends that come and go at Berklee. That's just the reality of it. I had some other friends who I thought were close people who really genuinely cared about me, and honestly, they didn't and talked a lot behind my back, which was very unfortunate. Now, on the flip side of things, there was amazing people that were by my side through the first year all the way through the fourth, and honestly, I still talk to those people several times a week on Zoom calls, games like Backyard, we just talk all the time. It's super important that Berklee College of Music is a place you don't go to just to learn theory, just to get an amazing music education, just to hone in on your craft, but it is a networking central. I cannot express how important it is to network from the first day you are there with as many people as you can. Essentially, you're never going to be in a situation like that again, where every single person in the room is a musician with like-minded talents, with the same sort of ambition, with the wanting to create, that drive to make beautiful music. And some of these relationships end up leading people to lifelong careers with these friends and these contacts. And it ends up to jobs after school and so many things like that. I currently, even though COVID-19 happened and a lot of things shut down, I have a lot of friends that if I plan on moving to Nashville or even stay in LA, I have a lot of contacts that I can exercise and actually make some amazing things happen for myself. Now, ensembles are honestly one of the most important parts of Berklee College of Music. Now, there are some students that don't, even though you have to get accepted with an instrument, there are students that go to Berklee for music production, for music therapy, for songwriting, for things where they don't really necessarily care about being in the spotlight on stage or performing so much. I will say though, for the people who are serious about performing or people who are singer-songwriters trying to hone in on their craft, singers, any type of performer at all at Berklee, the ensembles that you get yourself situated in are the most important part I took away from Berklee. They forced me to play music I would never intuitively try to play. I play just about every genre of music I can think of on the top of my mind, and it was honestly the most eye-opening experience for me as a vocalist, because learning these things about jazz affected my tone, it affected how I can modulate through my voice, and then the pop attributes I learned, and even some opera attributes I learned through these ensembles, they just sort of make you the much better musician. Ensembles are a key part of learning to work with other musicians, which I cannot express how important that is. You need to be in time. You learn to follow with the drummer. You learn to follow with everybody else, how to communicate sonically through your instrument, which honestly, for a lot of people that come to Berklee, they've been doing a solo gigging thing for a while and maybe have never been in a band experience. And when they get to Berklee, it's kind of a foreign territory. And when they get to explore the ensemble, it might be a little rocky at first, but they end up loving the experience and loving where it leads them. And honestly, the majority of the time, the performances end up being absolutely incredible. I learned an incredible amount from the amount of ensembles I was a part of, and that was honestly probably one of my favorite memories from Berklee. was all the ensembles I got to perform with, the people I got to meet, make music with. So let's talk about the thing that was my greatest challenge at Berklee College of Music. I mentioned earlier in this video that I didn't really know a lick about harmony, meaning I knew some of the basics, I knew some scales, and I understood the basics of how chord structure works, but to call myself a theory-based musician or a true musician's musician was definitely not me before attending Berklee. I remember I passed Harmony 1 just on the cusp of things, and it involved me staying up till 3, 4 in the morning almost every single night to learn this new information for the very first time. And I remember feeling very frustrated that some of these students had been learning, music theory since the age of 6. And their families, it was part of their education, their school programs, or they had taken AP music theory in high school or music theory programs in middle school. And I remember just hoping and wishing that I had done that for myself or had had that opportunity. But let me say something. When you want something bad enough, when you want to really take advantage of Berklee's program, not just pass all the classes, but end up from failing harmony classes and ear training classes to getting a 4.0 in those classes, it takes a lot of hard work, and that's exactly what I was able to pull off by the time I graduated. And it was an amazing, amazing experience to see the amount of information I could soak up in those 4 years. I can't believe how far I have come from before Berklee to where I am now, and it has made me the better musician for it, point blank, period. Not all teachers are perfect at Berklee College of Music. Some of them have been there for a very long time, have gotten comfortable, and on the contrary of things, some of them are amazing and the greatest instructors you will ever meet in your lifetime. I have the most fondest memories with a list of teachers that come to mind that not only mentored me and took me in as one of their favorite students, which I shouldn't say, but they just really shared from the heart, shared from their personal experience, and taught the best to the ability that they could what they had learned from their life and how to apply their music education the way they thought best, which was absolutely amazing and worth the tuition in full several times over. Now, this one was amazing, I must say, private instruction. Depending on what type of instrument you choose to study, you have to have private instruction. It depends on what major, and there's certain amounts of times that if you're a performance major, you can have private instruction almost all the way through the entire 4 years. But if you are, what I did, I was professional music, where I had concentrates in songwriting, production, and performance. I had private instruction for about half of my education, a little over half at Berklee College of Music. I got to study with a different vocal instructor every single semester of about 3.5 years. It was incredible. So that's 2 different private vocal instructors every single semester, 2 different people with completely different backgrounds, professionals in the industry, different techniques, different ways that they evaluated my voice and things that could help me. Just imagine this. Imagine you don't even need to go to Berklee to have this done. If you were to seek out a private instructor, seek out someone that could massively impact how you sing or how you play the guitar or how you do whatever your instrument is, a different person twice a year could make the absolute difference for how you progress, because they have life experience. They've been doing this a long time, and they've cultivated exactly what works for them. And I was actually someone that had been teaching before attending Berklee, so I had my own ideas and ways of getting through to the student, and I love to see the ways that my private instructors did for me. I had one private instructor who actually would have me stand up, have me belt a note, and she would continue to almost karate chop my diaphragm and push into my diaphragm to show me just how hard I had to push. And it was this amazing experience and eye-opening thing that really showed me how much I need to breathe and have control as a vocalist. Point blank, private instruction is an amazing experience. I got to learn opera from some, pop techniques from others, emotional techniques from others, just about everything you can imagine, performance techniques. It was amazing. The dormitories. I hate them. When I went to Berklee, I had to stay in a dormitory my entire first year. I could not wait to get out. I did not like sharing a tiny room, being on the top bunk with someone I was not very fond of. So I'll leave it at that. Some people love the dormitories because you actually share the same building as some of your classes and you're in very close walking approximation to other classes. But I must say it was not for me, and I could not wait the next year to spend less money and source an apartment with some friends of mine. The live performances at Berklee were simply outstanding. Aside from my ensemble, aside from solo ventures, in my last semester I experienced one of the best things I have ever done. I took a class called Perspectives of Songwriting, and it was the second level of that class. I met amazing people. We had to write a song every single week based on a different prompt. We had to perform it to the class, have it critiqued by the class, and it became this collective of amazing musicians working together to make your work better. And honestly, there was no judgment. Everyone was extremely supportive. And we built this insanely close and vulnerable connection between all of us, which was the class I looked forward to. Honestly, probably my favorite class since being at Berklee. We had a final performance, and during that final performance, we each got to do 2 songs. For one of my songs, I was the only one. They chose my song for everybody to come together, and a friend from that same class took that song and arranged it for everybody to have their own part, their own harmonies and different ways of intricacies to make the song, embellish the song, make it so much better. And it was incredible. The audience was moved by it. My teacher was moved to tears, and then she told me, that I had to pursue this, to go on tour and to make my dreams come true, which to get that validation from a teacher I really respect, who had been a touring artist, who has millions of fans, it was just an amazing experience. Now, do not be fooled. You do not go to Berklee to mess around. You will not pass Berklee breezing through it. You have to be serious about your classes, and you're spending real money to be there. Take your education seriously, because it's only going to make you better for it, and your money is going to mean more to you after the fact. Midterms can be extremely stressful, and always finals, but once you get through it, you'll be very, very proud of yourself. Now, I was actually part of an a cappella group for a good amount of my time at Berklee, and we were called On the Vox. It's still around. My girlfriend was actually the president of the group, and now one of my very, very close friends is the president since my girlfriend and I have graduated. That was an amazing experience for me, something I didn't think I would ever be a part of, but I went out for it, and I maintained there for about 2.5 years, and what it allowed me to do was learn how to mix with a group of singers and use my voice in different ways than I ever had before. It's the reason why I can harmonize as well as I do with myself and with other productions. It's the reason why I am the singer I am today. And I never thought that being in an a cappella group, being in the background sometimes, learning how to mix, learning how to focus in on these different techniques would make all that difference for me later on. And it will impact my experience moving forward for the rest of my life. So, join a club. It's super important. Me time is extremely important. College can be very stressful. It was for me. There was a period of time where I went through a pretty unhealthy couple of months, and I noticed that my eating was terrible, my sleep was terrible. I was up all night studying all the time. I actually wasn't really partying, so that was never an issue, but I noticed that my body was not the way I wanted it to be. I gained some weight, and I just wasn't feeling very happy, wasn't feeling nourished, wasn't feeling emotionally super secure, because there was just so many other parts about my body I had abandoned because I was so stressed and involved with Berklee. Later on, I figured out the balance for things, and I said, okay, I need to devote some time for me. There'd be nights where I had off and could hang out with my friends, but I needed to spend that alone, whether it was writing music or going on 12-mile bike rides or going rock climbing or going walking around. But what I loved to do most were my bike rides, and later on going to the gym, where I could put on a show like The Office and aimlessly get lost in it for a good hour, an hour and a half every single day. In the beginning, the first 3 years, I never had an hour and a half to myself for self-care. But once I learned how to deal with the stress of school and figure out my time management, I could definitely make an hour and a half happen, even if that meant less time sleeping, to work on my self-care, to work out, to get outside the fresh air, give my mind some healthy energy, and nourish my soul. Now, I hope this video has been helpful for you. If you are thinking about going out for Berklee College of Music, or if you are already a student, maybe you're struggling a little bit, maybe you're advancing and you just want to know my perspective on things. I hope in this video I provided some useful tips for Berklee, how to get through the program, my experience with it. Maybe it can relate to you, maybe you can learn from it. And if you are thinking about attending Berklee, I hope this helps, because I must say, before I attended Berklee, I scoured the internet for a video like this to tell me about the school. Before I went in it blindly, before I moved away from LA, went somewhere blindly. I wish I had something like this. So again, thank you for all of you who've been watching all of my covers. I really appreciate the support. You all are amazing. And Tune in next week for another music-related video. Probably a cover. Bye. No fair. You really know how to make me cry when you give me those ocean